Should you soak your game meat? The battle between soaking meat versus not soaking meat seems to be a continual struggle, both sides spouting off their take of why one is better than the other. Today I want to take a look at a couple reasons why people soak their meat versus why people dry age their meat. The first big reason that I hear for people soaking their game meat is to get rid of the quote-unquote blood that's in the meat. To me, this has to be the worst unscientific reason that I've heard for this. It's been proven that there is no blood in the actual muscle. The blood is in the veins and the arteries. This is a known fact that it is not blood, but myoglobin. Again, there is no blood in the actual muscle. I really wish people would understand this, that it is not blood. I watched a video on a guy doing the pros of soaking meat, and he said the reason why you see cows hanging in a butcher shop is so that it can drain the blood, and this has to be the furthest thing from the truth. There is no blood that actually drains out of the muscles. The second big reason that I see is that people say it takes away the gamey taste. Now, I have butchered a lot of deer, and I've never rejected a deer product because it tasted gamey or bad. Maybe I don't have a strong palate, but I have never stopped eating a piece of deer product because of this. Maybe the soaking process does take some taste out of the meat, but then you're left with a bland piece of meat that you have to season heavily to get it to taste right. Now, I've also seen videos of guys doing, dry aged versus wet aged meat, and they've had people taste it, and it tastes no different. Okay, maybe that's one result, and they seasoned it well, and it's fine. But at the same time, it takes away the excuse of it's a gamey taste, so why even soak it in the first place? I think this reasoning comes from people's preconceived idea that the meat they're about to eat, or the meat that they're processing, is not from an actual butcher or a cow, but is from a wild game, whether it be deer, elk, moose, or something else. It's wild game they're eating, so they already kind of have this reservation of maybe this is not going to be good. I don't really know. I know I do that with other food that maybe I've never tried before, and like, man, that's going to taste bad already before I even taste it. But I think a lot of the gamey taste that people do think that's there could be a part of the butchering process from the field to the table, basically. They've not followed a good process. They've left unwanted things in the meat. They're not processing it well, and maybe people just need to learn how to process a deer. See, for wet aging or using a cooler with ice is if you're remote in an area where you just can't get the deer meat cooled down in time by hanging it, so you've got to get it somewhere. You've got to get it quartered up into a cooler with some ice, and you've got to get that meat cooled down. I understand that. Also, it's 90 degrees outside. You just put a deer on the ground, elk, moose, whatever, and you've got to get that cooled down. I get that as well. Some states open early. I know here in Kentucky, we start the first weekend of September, so it could be 90 degrees outside. So that would be the only reasoning that I would see you need to get deer meat, wild game, on ice. Now let's see the other side of this, which is a dry aging or even butchering as soon as possible. Dry aging is not a new concept for anybody. It's been done now for several years and backed up by experiments, research. This is the gold standard for aging meat. And primarily aging meat is for tenderizing the meat, and with that comes a little different flavor as well, depending on the amount of days you dry age. When you go to a high-end restaurant, most of the time it's dry aged meat that they're serving, and they may even have a different categories of dry age, whether it's 2 weeks, a month, 45 days, whatever they do. It all kind of gives it a different flavor and tenderness. Now, with wild game such as deer and elk, they are a very lean meat anyways. There's hardly no fat that's incorporated into the meat like a cow would be. And so to say you're going to dry age deer for 2 weeks is really not necessary. Now it may give it a little more flavor, a little different flavor, and that's great. But for the tenderizing of it, it's not really needed. I've heard butchers talk about this, and especially your normal deer processing butchers, is they are not waiting or not hanging your deer for 2 weeks. They're not dry aging that meat. They are processing those deer as fast as they can. Now, if it's a busy processor, it may hang for a couple of days in a cooler if they have that process. But they're processing those deer as fast as they can, getting them in, getting them out, and there's no aging to that. There's no dry aging to that. And so the meat itself, again, it's very tender. There's no need to tenderize that meat, as it by nature it's tender right off the animal. Now, if you're anything like me, the game I kill, I generally don't process the same day. It's just a long process from field to packaging, so it's generally hanging up somewhere, and I'll butcher it the next day or give it a couple of days if it's cool enough, and then get it butchered. For me, dry aging is less of a hassle. I don't have to babysit a cooler of ice and keep ice in it and watch it and all this. I don't have to do that, and just the color of the meat is so much more appetizing. I hope you guys were able to take away some good points from this video. Again, your process is your process, but I do prefer dry aging over anything with ice or water. It just makes for a better product. And if your butcher won't put a ribeye in ice water, why would you put a good backstrap? I hope you guys like and share this video, and I hope you guys subscribe to the channel, and we look to see you in the future with more videos.